Dear beautiful people, today I want to talk to you about something that is really dear to me, and this is what I see as a form of conservatism developing in modern Zen practice. You see, this is something that I went public with a little while ago by changing it in my book, but also speaking about it to certain people. Well, I was deeply involved with the arrival of Zen in Japan. 700 years ago, the Soto Zen school was born. So I practiced at the time and I was teaching at the time. When we brought Zen practice to Japan, it was revolutionary. It changed a lot. The impact on the culture was powerful. Many people find a way to disidentify with their egoic attachments. Many found a way to go beyond suffering. Many found a sense of liberation. And much wonderful work has been done. So this is something that's very difficult to speak about, because I'm deeply grateful to all those who have kept the tradition alive. I'm grateful to those who have been handing it down face to face, not relying on scriptures, but actually have kept the main teaching intact. But here's something that I wouldn't say worries me, because if you understand we're timeless beings, there's nothing we have to worry about. But relatively speaking, I have a concern. And this concern is that modern people who are now practicing Zen have begun to drastically limit themselves. 700 years ago, we already had knowledge of advanced yoga systems. We had an understanding of the chakra system. We had an understanding of Kundalini yoga. We had an understanding of how to transform a body, how to recalibrate a body so it can be a vessel for the Dharma, that means for Buddha nature awakened within space-time. And I want to emphasize that there is no mistake in the basic practice. The basic practice leads you to steps through the first gate, and the first gate is detachment from ego. In that sense, it has done its work. But nowadays, there's a certain skepticism towards mystical insight. When certain yogis or Buddhist practitioners speak about past life memories in great detail, or speak about visiting other dimensions or having telepathic experience and so on, they are being called New Agers. They are being looked down upon. And even if someone would be open to this type of experience, often it is said, oh, it's not responsible to share these things with the public. In 700 years, much has changed. Back then, very few were initiated to Kundalini practice, because very few were ready for this type of practice. And I do understand this. These are powerful practices that when our basic Zen practice is not strong, psychosis is a real possibility as a result. If we hold on to the ego while experiencing our infinite nature, the possibility for psychotic breakdown is there. So then, our basic practice, our breathing meditation practice needs to be strong. Our mindfulness needs to be strong. And what do I mean by strength? Our ability to detach from what happens. Our ability to not identify with what happens. Knowing that we are the witness, and in that sense we are not drawn into the experience in a way that we would lose ourselves. But at some point, when the foundation is built, we cannot get around developing the deeper yoga practice, and this is Kundalini yoga. This is what leads to the re-experiencing of past life memory. This is what leads to telepathic ability. This is what leads to direct mystical insight. And the systems with regards to the chakras are very complex because it is highly complex. And many modern Zen practitioners find them intimidating. As long as their practice remains mysterious to them, in that sense it becomes a safety zone, a comfort zone, and this is where they feel fine. As long as they just do mindfulness meditation, well, there's a sense of arrival, but it's just a sense of arrival until your consciousness is expanded again. It's a plateau that you have achieved. And now we're clinging to this plateau. And those who have a deeper practice are being ridiculed. Those teachers who come back after a long, long time to teach now in more advanced ways are often not even recognized by the Zen community. They are often seen as frauds, as esoteric crazies. Now, if they're seen like that, that means there's ego involved. That means there is attachment. There is an attachment to the idea of being a Zen practitioner. This is not Zen. Zen is not rigidity. Zen is flowing with the life experience as it manifests in the present moment, in the timeless. And holding on to a plateau is death. Life is movement. The neglect of advanced practice because our egos feel intimidated by the possibility that there is more out there than what we think we have learned and what we think we have attained. Times have changed. Many beings are more receptive. Many beings seek the deeper practice. Now, out of fear to distort the original teaching, out of fear to lose the essence of Buddhism, because there is a certain pride in it, compared to other great religions, in Buddhism very, very little has been lost in, let's say, translating the experience from one generation to the next. Very little has been lost, very little has been distorted. As for example in the Abrahamic religion, where much distortion has been taking place and the original teaching is nearly not recognizable anymore in those modern institutions. The Buddhist systems have been kept alive by those who deeply cared, compassionately, by those who didn't seek fame, didn't seek attainment, but were deeply feeling for the beings on this planet, and therefore much of the Buddhist practice is true to the original way that it was taught. But understand that if now we become rigid, we are blocking the evolution of consciousness. We are holding on to something because we are afraid to distort it. We are afraid to lose the original practice. But be assured that many of those teachers who have been teaching hundreds of years ago have returned in different bodies with new identities and a modern way of teaching in modern language. Now, if you don't believe that, it is because you do not have access to past life memory yet, because you do not have access to those profound mystical insights yet, because otherwise it would be apparent. Now, those teachers who have returned, we struggle to recognize them because we have an idea of who they were, and we made them great, and we made them mysterious and legendary and all that. So we made them something that they were not. We have made them greater than they were, even though they were truly great. We now have a fantasy concept of who those teachers are. And if they would return and knock on our door, many of us would not recognize them and say, what you are teaching is esoteric nonsense. What has been taught hundreds of years ago was appropriate for the times. We are moving forward as humanity. Our practice will get deeper. The phenomena will be more frequent. More and more people will have experience beyond the physical frequency. And as such, the deeper teaching is needed. The systematic teaching of the chakra system, of energetic states, of body transformation is dearly required. What was needed a few hundred years ago is now holding us back. You will not lose the foundation of your house. You can always practice mindfulness. You can return to breathing meditation when the complexity of energetic phenomena overwhelms you. I even strongly recommend it. But to refuse advanced forms of yoga out of fear of losing a system that you attach to is by the very definition ego. So I speak to you from my heart. This matters greatly to me. And I want to express my gratitude to all those practitioners, to all those teachers who out of love have kept the tradition alive. But I also want to encourage you to go even beyond it, to seek even greater depth, to understand that when you have reached a revelation that this is not it, the looking for a single enlightenment, instead of realizing that you're being enlightened every single day, because every single day your consciousness expands, every single day you become greater, every single day you learn something deeply about yourself. But when you've stepped through the first gate, the denial of other gates is attachment. Please contemplate about that and be well.